I took the job because desperation doesn't wait for pride. The boutique wasn't glamorous, just rows of silent mannequins staring from beneath 100 perfect wigs, each one whispering someone else's secret. The air smelled of hairspray and hope. Carol, the owner, glided through the aisles like a stage director before opening night, her eyes sharp, her smile knowing. These, she said, brushing her hand over a cascade of synthetic curls, are freedom in a box, and you'll be surprised how many men come here looking for it. Her words hung in the air like perfume sweet, unsettling, impossible to ignore. I nodded, pretending to understand. Sure, I can handle that. In truth, I couldn't picture it some balding guy in a blonde bob. I imagined a pig in lipstick and nearly laughed at the thought. Carol drifted off to the back, leaving me at the counter with the silence and the soft rustle of wig caps. A man walked in, glanced nervously around, and bolted. Later, Carol told me that most of the men didn't like dealing with a man behind the counter. They want someone who won't make them feel seen, she said. By closing, I'd sold 6 wigs all to women and was starting to get the hang of it. As Carol counted the till, curiosity got the better of me. I took a short auburn bob from the rack, slipped into the fitting booth, and placed it on my head. For a moment, my reflection startled me. My jaw softened, my face changed. I didn't look like Evan anymore. I looked almost delicate. I yanked the wig off, shoved it back on its stand, and tried to forget the flutter in my chest. The next day, as afternoon quiet settled in, I found myself trying another wig, then another. Curiosity became ritual. Each new style drew a stranger out of the mirror. One afternoon, I was adjusting a shoulder-length auburn wig when Carol's voice broke the silence. I like that color on you. I'm just testing them. Helps me recommend styles to customers. Carol smiled knowingly. Then you should try it with makeup, see the full effect. Makeup? I croaked. She chuckled. Most women wear makeup, dear. I could stay after hours and show you how to apply it, if you want. I muttered something about thinking it over. Of course, I wasn't going to. At least, that's what I told myself. That night, over dinner, I told Mom what Carol had said, expecting her to wave it off. Instead, she looked intrigued. She's right, Mom said. You'd learn a lot from it. Friday came, paycheck in hand, and just as I was about to leave, Mom walked in. She and Carol hit it off instantly, 2 women exchanging glances that made me nervous. Why don't you come by Sunday? Carol said. We'll do a little makeup session. Private, of course. Before I could protest, Mom added cheerfully, I'll come too. I'd love to see. And just like that, my fate was decided. Sunday afternoon arrived faster than I hoped. Carol let us in, guiding me toward the small booth, while Mom disappeared with a mysterious grin. On the counter lay brushes, powders, little jars of creams, a battlefield of beauty. Take off your shirt, Carol said, already reaching for foundation. My pulse raced, but I obeyed. In the mirror, she worked quickly. Soft green and umber eyeshadow, black eyeliner tracing my lashes, coral blush blooming across my cheeks, and a whisper of red on my lips. When she placed the auburn wig back on my head, I nearly gasped. It wasn't disguise. It was transformation. The stranger in the mirror smiled hesitantly, and I felt something stir curiosity, fear, maybe both. Then Mom appeared, holding 2 shopping bags like a magician revealing her trick. To complete the transformation, she said. I already knew. Inside were clothes, soft pink blouse, a bra, nylons. My throat tightened. But I went into the booth anyway. The bra baffled me for a minute before I figured out the clasps, then stuffed the cups with nylons. The blouse hugged my shoulders gently. When I stepped out, wearing tan slacks and loafers, the mirror greeted me with a girl awkward, unsure, but undeniably there. Carol clasped her hands. If I'd known how pretty you were, we'd have done this ages ago. Mom laughed. Evan's such a masculine name, she said thoughtfully. She needs something softer, something that suits her. Carol smiled. How about... Lily! The name hung in the air like a spark about to catch. I like that, Mom said, the name rolling off her tongue as if it had been waiting all along. How about you, Evan? Do you like the name Lily? I I don't care, I muttered, because this is the last time, the only time. They both smiled like they knew better. Carol had an appointment and had to leave, which meant I walked out of the boutique still wearing the wig, the bra, and the soft red lipstick that hadn't quite worn off. On the drive home, I could still feel the nylon straps pressing into my shoulders, a quiet, strange comfort I wasn't ready to name. By Monday, I'd scrubbed everything off and gone back to being myself. Or tried to. Carol didn't mention it, but the way she looked at me that morning, half amused, half wistful, told me she missed the version of me she'd seen in that mirror. We sold nearly 10 wigs that day. I should have been proud. Instead, I couldn't shake the echo of that reflection, that fleeting image of Lily. That night, Mom cornered me in the kitchen, leaning against the counter like she'd been waiting for the right moment. You know, she said, I still don't understand why you're fighting it. You looked incredible, and it's not as if you have to live as a girl full time. Carol even said she'd pay you more if you did it for work. I froze with a glass in my hand. Yes, but... But what? Her tone softened, coaxing. You need the money, and you looked happy. It's just the three of us who'd know. Think about it, dear. And that was the problem I already had been. Ever since that afternoon at the boutique, that image in the mirror had branded itself into my mind. I'd never once thought about dressing as a girl before, yet now, the memory of how I'd looked wouldn't leave me. Not ridiculous, not ugly, just right. I tried to push it away, but the thought kept resurfacing: the soft blouse, the faint perfume, the way my reflection had smiled back like she'd been waiting for me to notice her. When I closed my eyes, I saw her again. The same body, but softer, smaller. A skirt brushing my thighs, a blouse tracing gentle curves that shouldn't have been there. Mom smiled, seeing right through me. I'll pick up a few things this week, she said casually. We'll try again this weekend. It wasn't a suggestion. It was fact. Carol didn't bring it up again, though I caught her glancing at me now and then with that same quiet curiosity. The boutique was busy, and for a while, I buried myself in the rhythm of sales and small talk. But by Saturday afternoon, I found Mom waiting for me. When I came home, hands folded, eyes bright with anticipation. Come upstairs, she said. I got us something. On my bed were department store bags, spilling lace and pastel fabric. My pulse quickened. I thought, it was time to see you all dolled up, she said lightly. You'll need a few things, of course. Go on down to your skivvies. We'll start there. Her tone was playful, but her eyes were sharp, a challenge I didn't dare refuse. I undressed slowly, every layer feeling heavier than it should have. When I stood there in nothing but my briefs, she opened a jar of cream and began spreading it across my chest, arms, legs. The scent was sharp, chemical, almost floral. After a few minutes, the itching started. When it was finally time to shower it off, my skin was smooth, startlingly so. When I came back, towel around my waist, she held out a pair of hot pink panties. I hesitated, then took them. The fabric was impossibly soft. Next came the bra, which she fastened herself. The straps tugged, and suddenly I had a faint line of cleavage. Better? She said, adjusting the padding. See, you're learning. I wasn't sure if she was teasing or proud. She guided me through the rest pantyhose, sliding up my freshly shaven legs, the slick nylon whispering as I moved. A short white slip that clung to my hips. And finally, the white dress. When she zipped it up, it hugged me in all the places I didn't expect. Shoes, she said simply, pointing to the white heels. I slipped into them, awkward at first, then steadier. The auburn wig went on next, soft, glossy, familiar, and with each brushstroke, the stranger from the mirror reappeared. Mom fastened small white button earrings onto my ears and handed me the lipstick. "You know what to do," she said. I drew it across my lips, the color warming my face. The mirror didn't show Evan anymore. It showed Lily, nervous, radiant, real. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. I stood taller, smoothing the dress, watching the way it flared slightly at my hips. My legs looked longer, my smile more natural. Mom's voice softened. "I think I'm looking at my daughter, Lily." "Am I?" Words caught in my throat. I could only nod. That afternoon changed something fundamental. In 2 hours, the idea of men who dressed like women had stopped being abstract, something I'd silently mocked. It had become personal, a reflection staring back, daring me to admit what I saw. I used to think men who dressed as women looked absurd like truck drivers in bad wigs, but standing there in my mother's hallway, seeing the reflection she saw, I couldn't hold on to that thought anymore. Mom's voice pulled me from my daze. "Come on, sweetheart," she said, motioning toward the kitchen. The soft click of my heels echoed through the house, each sound a small shock. By the time we reached the patio door, my confidence dissolved. "Outside?" I whispered. "Mom! Everyone will see me!" She stood there, smiling patiently, one hand on the door. "Then let them, or better yet, let them not. Now come on." The afternoon light spilled into the kitchen as she opened the door. My heart thudded. I peeked out, no neighbors in sight, no cars passing. The world was still. So I stepped out. The air felt different against my skin, lighter somehow. And as I sat across from her at the patio table, I tucked my knees together, hands folded neatly in my lap. The dress brushed my thighs. It was both terrifying and thrilling. Mom sipped her drink, eyes twinkling. "Now that we've confirmed you look spectacular, are you going to work this way?" "I'm not sure," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You can pick another name if you'd like," she said gently, "but I need to know soon." "Why?" "So I can introduce you properly when Carol arrives." "What? Carol's coming here? Today?" Panic spiked through me. "I should go change." "Oh no, you don't." She folded her arms. "We didn't spend all this time for you to hide now. Besides, I saw your face in that mirror, Lily. You liked what you saw." I froze. She wasn't wrong. I gave a weak shrug, halfway between denial and confession. The sun warmed my bare shoulders. The wind toyed with my hem. And for the first time, I didn't feel trapped. Maybe, just maybe, I could do this for the money, I told myself. Thirst became an excuse to move. I went to the fridge, grabbed 2 colas, and when I sat back down, Mom asked, "So, Lily it is?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, I think I like Lily." She nodded, satisfied. When Carol arrived, her eyes lit up the second she saw me. "Well, look at you," she said, laughing softly. Mom told her I'd chosen the name myself, a tiny white lie that made me blush. We were sipping our drinks when a voice called from the yard. "Mrs. Carter." I nearly jumped out of my seat. She strolled up to the patio, waving cheerfully. Mom handled it with poise. "Margie, you remember my daughter, Lily?" Daughter. The word hit like a warm jolt. Mrs. Carter didn't even blink, just asked for a cup of flour. Mom fetched it, handed it over, and a moment later, our neighbor was gone. None the wiser. Carol burst into applause. "See? Told you. You're completely believable." Mom laughed. "I'll make sure she's ready for Monday, but her wardrobe is rather limited right now." Carol grinned. "I'll see what I can dig up, but first dinner, my treat." "Dinner!" I squeaked. "In public?" Mom's tone sharpened. "Lily, enough. Margie's known you your whole life and didn't recognize you. No one else will either." I swallowed. "Yes, ma'am." "Good," she said briskly. "Now go fix your lipstick." And that's how I found myself sitting in a diner booth under dim yellow lights, trying not to tremble. The waitress called me Hon. and my stomach flipped. Nobody laughed. Nobody stared. The world just carried on. By dessert, my nerves had settled. Carol and Mom chatted easily, like everything was normal. Maybe it was. Back home, as I slipped off my heels, Mom came to stand beside me. "Now you know," she said softly. "You can do this. You can live as a girl if you choose. I won't force you. But if you decide to, I'll help you become even better at it." Her words lingered long after she left the room. The next morning, I stood before the mirror again. Yesterday's dress hung neatly over a chair. I told myself I was just looking, but soon I was shaving, brushing on foundation, pulling on the same soft pink panties and padded bra. A tee, my own shorts, white sneakers, and finally, the wig. It wasn't perfect, not like before, but it was enough. When I came to breakfast, Mom didn't even blink. She just set a plate in front of me. "Eat," she said, as if this version of me had always existed. After we cleaned up, she glanced at me and said, "Matter of factly, we'll need to get you at least one more bra and some extra panties. Maybe another dress or two, if we find a good sale." Her tone was casual, but I understood the test. She was giving me an opening one I could take or let close forever. I hesitated, looking down at my hands, at the faint shimmer of pink polish she'd left on my nails the night before. "Okay," I said finally. "Let's go." Mom smiled, not surprised, just quietly proud. It was a test Mom's test, but in truth, it was mine too. Standing in front of the mirror that morning, I realized I had reached the moment where pretending to think didn't help. The reflection looking back at me, careful makeup, soft lines, a cautious smile demanded an answer. Did I like this enough to keep going, or was I too afraid of what I'd already become? My heart beat faster as I met my own eyes in the mirror. "Okay by me, Mom," I finally said. She didn't look surprised. She just nodded, the corners of her mouth lifting in quiet satisfaction. "Good," she said, reaching for her purse. Then she pulled another from the shelf, smaller, beige, elegant, and handed it to me. "You'll need this too." We left the house without another word. Mom didn't tell me where we were going, but I already knew. The car rolled into the parking lot of her favorite department store, polished floors, racks lined with colors that whispered possibilities. As soon as we stepped into the lingerie section, the scent of perfume and new fabric surrounded us like a dare. "If I buy these," she said, running her hand along a rack of bras, "you'll wear them. Not just for work all the time. Changing back and forth will just confuse things." She didn't say it as an order, but her tone left no space for refusal. And honestly, staring at those neat rows of delicate lace and satin, I wasn't sure I wanted to refuse. I nodded. That was all she needed. Then she went into full mission mode, efficient, unstoppable. 3 new bras, all 34A, white, beige, pink. 2 packs of cotton panties in soft pastels. Slips, nightgowns, even another padded panty brief just in case. She moved through the aisles like a general planning a campaign, while I trailed behind, my arms full of clothes that weren't supposed to be mine, yet somehow were. In the junior department, she finally slowed down. "Your turn," she said. I picked cautiously at first a tan pleated skirt, short and crisp, then another in green, white, and navy, a black one that fell to the knee, and a gray one with soft folds. A red skirt caught my eye, bright and confident, and before I could guess myself, I added it to the pile. We grabbed 2 dresses, one black, one burgundy, and a stack of ankle socks. On the way out, Mom stopped at a small kiosk. Before I could ask why, she was already talking to the woman behind the counter. "2 piercings, please." "What?" "You'll thank me later," she said, waving off my panic. A moment later, a sharp pinch, a flash of heat, and I had earrings. When we reached the car, the back seat was piled high with evidence of my decision. As I looked at the mountain of bags, a shiver ran through me. My life was changing in ways I couldn't measure, yet one skirt, one lipstick, one unspoken truth at a time. At home, I carried everything to my room. The closet was already crowded, so I started folding my old boy clothes into boxes, jeans, shirts, socks, briefs, clearing space for new fabric, new shapes, new colors. It felt like shedding a skin. Once everything was hung and folded, I couldn't resist. I tried on each outfit, one by one, the way you might test different versions of yourself. When I slipped into the red skirt and white top, paired with ankle socks and my old gym shoes, I stopped. The mirror looked back with something startlingly natural. Mom appeared at the doorway, watching. "You look just like any other girl your age," she said warmly. Then the doorbell rang. "Get that, honey?" I froze. "Like this?" She smiled. "Exactly like that." I swallowed hard and went to the door. Mrs. Carter stood outside, and beside her was a tall, awkward boy with a hesitant smile. "May we come in, Lily?" she said easily, as if she'd said it 100 times before. "I want you to meet my nephew, Jason. He's staying with me for the summer." I managed a polite nod, stepping aside to let them in. Jason mumbled a hello, eyes darting everywhere but mine, though I caught him stealing glances when he thought I wasn't looking. I offered them something to drink, retreating to the kitchen with shaky hands. When I bent to grab the sodas from the fridge, I caught his reflection in the glass door, watching me, frozen, a flush rising on his neck. The skirt felt shorter than ever. Mrs. Carter, bless her heart, acted as if she'd known me as Lily forever. She smiled, chatted, and when her gaze flicked to me, there was a spark of understanding there, quiet, discreet. She knew. Whether Mom had told her or she'd figured it out on her own, it didn't matter. What mattered was that she didn't flinch. After they left, Mom turned to me, clearly amused. "Mrs. Carter thinks you're adorable," she said. "That's why she brought Jason over," I groaned. "Did you tell her about me?" She looked like she knew. "She did know," Mom said with a shrug. "Seeing you 2 days in a row, she put it together. But she won't say a word. She likes you, and Jason, well, he thinks you're a girl. A very pretty one." I rolled my eyes. "Mom, I'm a boy. He's a boy. How friendly can we be?" She only smiled. "Let him think what he wants." The rest of the day passed in a haze. I stayed inside, replaying every glance, every word. And in the morning, I did something I didn't fully understand yet. I got dressed again, red skirt, white top, pantyhose, flats. My movements were slower, more practiced now. Mom watched as I did my makeup, correcting me only once. Then she handed me my purse and said simply, "You're going to work, right?" I nodded. When I walked into the boutique, Carol looked up, took in my outfit, and smiled like she'd been expecting this all along. "Morning, Lily," she said, handing me the day's receipts. Not a word about what I was wearing, just business as usual. And just like that, normal shifted again, quietly, irreversibly. I sat perfectly still in the chair, while Carol swapped my old wig for a new one, her fingers quick and precise, like an artist working on her masterpiece. When she stepped back, I barely recognized the person staring at me in the mirror. The hair was honey blonde this time, softer, lighter, shimmering under the fluorescent light. It flowed back in gentle curls, the kind that seemed to move even when I didn't. The bangs nearly brushed my lashes, giving me a shy, almost dreamy look, and Carol had styled the crown high, adding that subtle, confident lift I'd seen in real women. I looked, well, beautiful, feminine in a way that felt effortless. I wore the wig the rest of the day, and when I got home, Mom was waiting for me. Her eyes widened. "Oh, Lily, that color changes everything." She wasn't wrong. The golden tone warmed my face, softened the last traces of who I used to be. I caught myself smiling at my reflection more than once that week. By Friday, I had stopped flinching at my own voice, stopped worrying that people might see through me. The world hadn't fallen apart, if anything. It had started fitting together. That's when Jason showed up. He was sitting on the porch steps when I came home, slouched, hands in his pockets, the picture of nervous teenage patience. "Hey," he said, standing quickly when he saw me. "I was just passing by." He wasn't. We talked for a while, small things at first. Music, the weather, the weird old man who lived 2 houses down. He asked if I wanted to go out sometime, and I panicked. I laughed it off, muttered something about being too busy. He didn't push. We just sat there, the air thick with something neither of us understood. He didn't touch me, didn't try. But his eyes lingered curious, uncertain, drawn in ways I couldn't begin to process. I told myself I was only dressing this way for work, that whatever was happening here didn't count. Still, I laughed at his jokes. His awkwardness was kind of endearing. And when I went inside, I caught myself wondering if he'd come back. I didn't tell Mom about him. The next morning, she caught me off guard before I'd even finished breakfast. "You have an appointment at Mary Lynn's," she said, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. "We need to get your foundation matched properly," I blinked. "What?" "10 o'clock. Don't be late." So, there I was an hour later, sitting in a beauty chair, a tan skirt brushing my knees, a soft brown sweater tucked neatly at my waist. The stylist Mary Lynn herself, a woman with immaculate eyeliner and gentle hands, wiped away every trace of yesterday's makeup before beginning her work. "Let's bring out those eyes," she said, studying my face like a painter reading a blank canvas. Her brushes moved with graceful precision, copper and gray shadows that deepened my gaze, liner that flicked just so, mascara that made my lashes fan like wings. She arched my brows high, as if surprise had permanently softened me, and dusted my cheeks with a coral blush that seemed to come from within. When she shaped my lips into a soft bow, filled with a creamy pink, red gloss, I felt something inside me click into place. When she was done, I couldn't look away. I looked real, polished, alive. Mom bought everything she used, every shade, every brush, before I could even protest. I thought we'd go home, but no. "Your nails," she said. "Too short. We'll fix that next." By the time the manicurist was done, my nails were longer, perfectly smooth, and painted a delicate red that matched my lips. The glossy finish caught the light every time I moved my hands. Back in the car, Mom smiled knowingly. "You realize you can't go back now," she said. "Not with nails like that." I laughed nervously, but she wasn't joking. She turned into another parking lot, a smaller boutique, discreet, tucked between a tailor and a bridal shop. I thought we were done. I was wrong. Inside, a woman greeted us with a professional warmth. "How can I help you?" Mom answered, before I could open my mouth. "My daughter's been padding her bras. I think it's time she had a proper fit." My face burned. But the woman didn't flinch. She smiled as though this were the most natural thing in the world, and led us toward a counter lined with silicone forms. "These attach directly to the chest wall," she explained, holding up a pair that looked impossibly real. "They warm to body temperature, perfectly seamless, and with sensors, they even respond to touch, very lifelike." Her eyes flicked to me. "You're about an A cup, right?" I nodded weakly. She guided me into the fitting room. Mom gave an encouraging nod. My pulse thundered in my ears as I slipped off my top and bra. The woman worked quickly, professionally, taking a mold, mixing adhesive, setting each piece with a careful press. When she stepped back and told me to look, I did, and the air left my lungs. The girl in the mirror had curves. Subtle, soft, believable. My reflection looked back at me with quiet astonishment, and for once, I didn't see the seams. I slipped my bra back on, the straps now snug against new weight, and felt it immediately, that shift in balance, that delicate reminder of what I was becoming. And though I tried to pretend otherwise, a quiet, dangerous truth settled in my chest. I liked it. The first few days with the new forms felt strange, heavier, alive, impossible to ignore. I became aware of them with every breath, every movement, the gentle tug of the bra straps against my shoulders. The weight felt foreign, but somehow reassuring, a constant reminder of what I was becoming. I loosened the straps a little before slipping my top back on, and by the time I joined Mom at the counter, I could already feel a light, natural sway when I walked. By the time we reached the car, I was secretly smiling. Acrylic nails, now breasts both glued, both long, lasting. My transformation had taken on permanence, and Mom knew it. There was no easy way back to Evan anymore, and I wasn't sure I wanted there to be. In the days that followed, I grew used to it, the pull of the bra, the swish of skirts brushing my thighs, the whisper of nylon when I crossed my legs. Even the way people looked at me had shifted. The women who once hesitated before asking for help now chatted freely, complimenting my style, asking my opinion. My sales climbed without me trying. Carol teased that I was her secret weapon, our charm in heels, she called me, and I didn't disagree. At home, Mom noticed everything. The way I used my hands, how I held my posture, how I tilted my head when listening. "You're softening," she said once, smiling. "It suits you." Even my walk had changed, shorter steps, smoother motion. I wasn't imitating anyone. It was just happening. The longer nails slowed me down, forcing me to move with care, to pick things up delicately. My old self was fading piece by piece, replaced by someone graceful, composed, oddly content. When my own hair began to grow out, the wigs started to itch. One evening, I experimented with shorter styles, trying on different looks in front of the mirror, a cropped auburn cut, a sharp black bob. The short one looked okay, maybe even chic, but not soft enough. I wore it home anyway, curious what Mom would think. Her reaction was swift. "It doesn't look like you," she said simply. Carol was less polite, too harsh. "You're not a brunette, Lily." They were both right. The next morning, I gave in and wore slacks, the first time in weeks, pairing them with a white blouse and flats. When I got to the boutique, Carol took one look at me, gasped dramatically, and pulled me straight into the fitting booth. "Oh, sit," she ordered, already rummaging through boxes. She plucked out a blonde wig, the same cut as before, but lighter, glowing almost honey gold, and set it on my head. The moment it settled into place, the difference was undeniable. "Perfect," she murmured, adjusting a curl. "That's you." I looked in the mirror, and I had to agree. The color caught the light like spun silk. The shape framed my face perfectly. For the first time, the girl staring back didn't feel like a disguise. She felt inevitable. Still, a part of me hesitated. Dyeing my real hair would make it official, permanent. I wasn't sure I was ready for that yet. Time was running fast, too fast. College loomed at the end of summer, and I knew I couldn't show up on campus in a skirt and heels. I'd have to go back. Back to jeans, to plain shirts, to being invisible again. The thought left a hollow ache in my chest. We were quiet that afternoon in the boutique, the lull between customers, heavy with the hum of fluorescent lights. Then the door opened, and there he was, Jason. He spotted me instantly, his face lighting up like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Hey, Lily," he said, walking straight toward me. My stomach fluttered. "Hi." Carol arched an eyebrow, but said nothing as I led him toward the back room. We sat down, and I handed him a soda, trying to ignore the way his eyes lingered on my face. I turned to set my drink down, and suddenly he was there, closer than before, his hand on my waist, his breath quick. Before I could react, he pulled me into him and kissed me. Shock froze me for a heartbeat. Then, instinct took over. I didn't push him away. The world narrowed to warmth, the faint smell of his cologne, the firm hand between my shoulder blades. When he drew back, I was breathless, confused, shaken, but not angry. "You're all I think about lately," he said softly, his voice trembling. Then he kissed me again, and that's when Carol's voice floated from the doorway. "Well," she said, a teasing smile curling her lips. Don't mind me. She grabbed a soda, winked, and disappeared. Jason left soon after, promising to stop by later. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty space he'd left behind, my pulse still racing. I wasn't sure what scared me more, that he'd kissed me, or that I hadn't wanted him to stop. That night at dinner, Mom brought it up as casually as if she were asking about my shift. So, she said, do you want to keep dressing as Lily, or go back? The question hit harder than she knew. I set my fork down, thinking. Dressing this way had started as a favor, a job requirement. But somewhere between wigs and lipstick, something had shifted. When Jason looked at me, he didn't see a boy in disguise. He saw me. And maybe, just maybe, I liked that. I met Mom's eyes. If I can keep going like this, I said quietly, then I want to. She nodded, once approval, acceptance, and something deeper. Classes at Greenfield College started in late August. 2 weeks left. I'd been saving every dollar I could, working extra hours. Officially, my initials were S.E., Evan Elias, but the name felt like it belonged to someone else. Lily Elizabeth sounded right. Whole. I could still live at home close enough to commute. That was a relief. It meant I wouldn't have to give Lily up completely. Still, paperwork meant real names, real records. How would I sign forms, show ID, explain the difference? The thought haunted me. One Thursday afternoon, as I swept the boutique floor, a familiar customer came in. Linda, one of Carol's long-time clients. Older, poised, elegant. And though I knew she was technically a man, she moved through the shop with such easy grace that gender hardly seemed to matter. Carol handled her order, chatting easily. When Linda left, Carol turned to me with that knowing smile of hers. When you register for college, she said, use the name Lily Elizabeth. It'll be fine. I stared at her. You really think so? She just smiled, mysterious as ever. Trust me, you'll be surprised what people accept when you look the part. And somehow I did. I wasn't entirely convinced, but Carol's certainty was hard to ignore. She spoke as if she already knew the outcome, as if Linda's quiet confidence was a sign. Maybe Linda did have connections at Greenfield College. The way Carol mentioned her made me think so. On registration day, Mom was waiting by the door with that expectant look she got when she'd made up her mind for both of us. You might as well try, she said. If it doesn't work, you can always go back tomorrow as yourself. Myself. The word felt outdated. I dressed carefully, tan skirt, neat and straight, the hem skimming just above my knees. Brown pullover, tan jacket, loafers polished until they gleamed. In the mirror, I looked composed, professional, believable, maybe even confident. At the registration desk, I filled out the paperwork with steady hands. Lily Elizabeth. My handwriting was neat, almost graceful, not like the cramped scrawl I used to have. When I handed the forms to the woman behind the counter, she gave me a polite smile, no flicker of doubt, no second glance. She stamped the papers, handed them off, and said, "You'll get your ID in just a minute, miss." Miss. An hour later, I stood outside with my new ID card in hand. Lily Elizabeth, female, Greenfield College. The plastic felt warm in my fingers, the letters slightly raised under my thumb. It was real. It was me. The sun was bright, the world crisp and full of sound car engines, laughter, the murmur of students moving around me. I smiled, knowing this was no longer a game or an experiment. There would be no going back. My life had pivoted completely, and I wasn't afraid of it anymore. When I graduated, my degree would say Lily, not Evan, and that was exactly how I wanted it. That afternoon, I stopped by the boutique, brimming with quiet pride. I pulled off my wig, letting my own hair fall free, brushing it absent-mindedly, while Carol came over holding another wig. "This one," she said, setting it gently on my head. It was auburn medium length, with soft curls that flipped outward at the ends, the kind of style you might see in glossy fashion magazines. It framed my face perfectly, the curls brushing my jawline, the color warming my skin. I stared at the mirror, hardly breathing. "That's it," Carol said softly. "That's the one." I smiled at my reflection. "I think I'll get my real hair done like this." And 2 days later, I did. Mom's salon was full of chatter and the smell of shampoo, and she couldn't stop grinning when I told her what I wanted. 2 hours later, the mirror reflected the real thing: auburn curls, gentle bangs, that same easy wave. It looked natural, alive, mine. Mom beamed. "You look beautiful, Lily," Jason agreed. Life fell into rhythm again. My mornings started early 8 a.m. classes, finishing by 1. Then I'd drive straight to the boutique, work until evening, study after dinner. The routine was relentless, but it kept me balanced. Still, it wasn't effortless. Unlike before, getting ready took time: hair, foundation, eyeliner, lipstick, the small daily rituals that made Lily complete. Sometimes, as I was standing in front of the mirror with a curling brush in hand, I caught myself smiling at the irony. How I once thought this was play, when in truth, it had become my normal. Jason left for home at the end of summer, not before trying and failing to convince me to spend the night with him. We'd kissed, touched, teased, until the line blurred just enough to make us both ache. But when the moment came, I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. When he was gone, I felt something missing, but couldn't tell if it was him or the way he made me feel seen. Money was tight. Every dollar I earned went toward college, leaving little for luxuries like professional waxing or laser hair removal. I managed the best I could: close shaves, long sleeves when needed, careful layers of foundation. It worked well enough. Then, 1 month into the semester, I met Ryan. He was at the freshman mixer, standing near the back wall like a misplaced equation tall, a bit stooped, with glasses that kept sliding down his nose, and a haircut that screamed grad student special. His shirt was buttoned wrong, his shoes looked like they'd survived a small explosion, and yet, he had kind eyes. Samantha, a girl from my math class, waved me over. "That's my brother," she said, nodding toward him. I blinked. "No way." "Way," she laughed. "He's hopeless, but sweet. You should meet him?" Before I could object, she was already dragging me across the room. Ryan's handshake was warm, hesitant. He mumbled something about chemistry labs and the biochemistry program, his words tangling together until Samantha stepped in. "Ryan's working on some kind of hormone project," she explained. "Something that controls growth. You'd like it, Lily. It's all very scientific." I smiled politely, though science wasn't exactly my language. "That's impressive." Samantha rolled her eyes. "Basically, he's trying to stop certain kinds of growth while encouraging others. Says it could help people regrow limbs or tissue someday." Ryan blushed at her summary, but didn't deny it. His excitement was contagious, though, even if I barely understood half of what he said. Later that night, as the music wound down, I found myself talking to him again, softer this time, away from the noise. He was awkward, sure, but kind in a way that didn't feel forced. When he smiled, really smiled, he looked nothing like the geek Samantha made him out to be. The next day, Samantha and I met for lunch. "So?" she teased. "What did you think of my brother?" "He's different," I said. "But nice. Just not my type." "You say that now," she grinned. "But he'll probably end up running half the country one day." I laughed, shaking my head. "If he ever remembers to shave." "Give him time," she said. "He's working on a serum that might change everything. You might want to stay on his good side." That made me laugh even harder, but something about her tone stuck with me. Maybe because, deep down, I already suspected she was right, not just about Ryan's future, but about the quiet way he'd looked at me that night, like he'd already decided I'd somehow changed his world. Ryan was staring at me with that open, analytical curiosity that never seemed to switch off. You're a very attractive girl, Lily, he said quietly, the words almost clinical, as though he were noting a new finding in a lab book. I laughed, more to deflect the sudden tension than from modesty. Thanks. He hesitated. Would you consider dinner with me Friday night? That caught me off guard. Why me, Ryan? You could ask anyone. He smiled ruefully. Yeah, right. Most people think I'm a half. Mad chemist who forgets to eat when he's working. I'm not exactly Mr. Charming. But I can't help it, Lily. I'm drawn to you. I think our pheromones are mixing quite nicely. Our what? Pheromones, he explained eagerly. Tiny chemical signals our bodies use to choose a mate. It's like nature's love potion, only real, a hormone. I folded my arms. Or maybe you're just attracted to me like a normal person? He grinned. That too, but I can prove it, if you'll let me. And somehow he talked me into it. His lab smelled of ethanol and metal, the air humming faintly from the equipment. He took a tiny sample of my blood, sliding the vial into a machine that hummed and clicked. When the printer began spitting out data, his eyes flicked to the page and widened. Interesting, he murmured. What? I asked. He looked at me, disbelief flashing across his face. According to this, you're genetically male. My stomach dropped. He saw my expression and raised his hands quickly. Hey, don't worry. I'm not telling anyone. You're doing an incredible job living as you are. Honestly, you look more feminine than half the girls I know. I didn't speak. He stepped closer, his gaze flickering between me and the printout. What confuses me, he continued, is why I reacted to you the way I did. My body read you as female. I'm not gay, and yet the attraction was immediate chemical. Maybe you're just overthinking it, I said softly. Oh, I'm definitely attracted to you, he said, smiling again. But come here, let me show you something. He led me to a wall of small cages. Inside, mice scurried over wood shavings. A few tiny pink babies huddled near one of the adults. See anything odd? He asked. Not really. They were all males when I started the study, he said. Every single one. Then I introduced a hormone I synthesized, and this happened. I stared. You're saying it changed them? Completely, he said, almost reverently. It patterned their physiology. The genetic males developed female organs, and within weeks, he gestured toward the pup's viable offspring. He moved to a small refrigerated cabinet, opened it, and held up a vial filled with faintly pink liquid. This, he said, is the compound. Perfectly safe. It triggers the body to produce the missing hormones and rebalances the system to a female profile. Hair loss, softer skin, breast growth, even hip widening, all natural. I stared at the vial, my voice trembling. And one shot does all that? One, he said simply. Once I solved the molecular chain problem, everything else fell into place. Your body would take over the rest, as if it had always been meant to. My heart raced. Ryan, do you realize what this could mean? For people like me? For anyone who's ever felt trapped in the wrong body? He nodded slowly. That's what I'm offering, Lily, the gift of yourself. The words hit me hard. I explained to him just how enormous this discovery was, what it would mean beyond his lab. Millions of lives could change. We talked for hours, ideas tumbling faster than we could keep up. He wanted to test it further before seeking a patent, but he also wanted to see what would happen with me. Against every rule of caution, I agreed. He administered the injection himself, gentle but precise, his hand steady. I watched the liquid disappear into my arm and felt nothing. No pain, no dizziness, just anticipation. That night, lying in bed, I kept touching my chest, waiting for some kind of sign. Nothing yet. But I fell asleep smiling anyway, already imagining what might come. I didn't tell Mom. I wanted to surprise her. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and I grew closer. Beneath his lab chatter and awkward humor was a warmth I hadn't noticed before. He made me laugh, and somewhere between experiments and coffee runs, I started looking forward to seeing him every day. Then, about 3 weeks later, I felt it the faintest tingling across my chest, delicate as a whisper. It was happening. A month after that, I stood in front of the mirror, heart pounding, staring at the undeniable proof. Smooth skin, widening hips, and the small, perfect curve of my own breasts. Real, warm, alive. For the first time in my life, my reflection didn't feel borrowed. It felt like home. When the changes deepened, I knew something extraordinary was happening. My old body was fading piece by piece, quietly surrendering. The breast forms no longer fit, I had grown beyond them, and the padded briefs that once gave me shape were unnecessary. My reflection had become real. The day Mom accidentally walked in on me, her gasp said everything. For a moment, we just stood there, two women, two generations, seeing the truth between us. Then her shock gave way to anger. "You took an untested drug?" she demanded. I told her everything about Ryan's discovery, the experiment, the serum. She paced the room, furious, terrified. But when I finally agreed to see a doctor, her expression softened. She studied me more carefully, her hands trembling as she brushed my hair back. "Other than this," she said gently, touching my shoulder, "you're no different from me." Later, she added, almost as if to herself, "All the women in our family are curvy. If you take after me, you'll be the same." It wasn't said with vanity, just maternal certainty. She insisted on meeting Ryan. When he arrived, I saw him through new eyes, nervous but cleaned up, his tie slightly crooked, his smile shy but proud. For the first time, I felt something stir that wasn't fear or curiosity, but attraction. I kissed him softly before introducing him to Mom. He explained everything with patient confidence. The lab trials, the animal studies, the unexpected success. The results were staggering, even primates had responded. 2 had already given birth. Mom's sternness melted into awe. "Then, my daughter," she said slowly, "might give me grandchildren someday." Ryan smiled. "If the process continues as expected, yes." We laughed, but her eyes shimmered. I filed the patent paperwork the following week, and Ryan added my name beside his a partnership in science and in life. He called it a moral necessity, but I saw the truth in his grin. He wanted us to share everything. The companies came calling soon after: offers, contracts, interviews. Reporters whispered about a serum that could rewrite biology. Ryan took the attention in stride, but he made sure I was protected, hiring a lawyer to handle negotiations. Meanwhile, my own body finished what the serum had started. The last remnants of who I'd been were fading. When I saw my doctor, he could only shake his head in wonder. "Your anatomy is now entirely female," he said quietly. "You're whole." He was still mid-sentence when he looked at me, hesitated, and added with a half-smile, "And when the time comes, you'll know exactly what that means." That time did come, sooner than I expected, the unmistakable sign every woman knows. I panicked at first, but Mom was there, calm and steady, helping me through it. It wasn't pleasant, but it was final, undeniable proof that my journey had come full circle. After that, life settled into something like normal classes, work, paperwork, interviews, except nothing was ordinary anymore. I was living in a body that matched my reflection, my emotions, my sense of self. Ryan and I grew closer through it all, bound by something deeper than discovery. When he looked at me now, it wasn't curiosity, it was connection. The night we finally let the walls between us fall wasn't about science or transformation. It was about being seen, being held, being real. It wasn't an ending. It was the moment everything finally began.